With New Year's being the last holiday in front of us, it might seem like all of the deals for tools, car parts, whatever it is, they're probably all gone right now. And some of them that I recommended last time are even completely out of stock. So, what deals are left? And there are quite a few. So, for that, we do have five, but along the way, we'll see if we can pick up a few more. The top five post holiday deals that I would recommend is going to start off with scan tools. Scan tools, I think, over the last few years have really boomed in the sense of the functions, features being more available across different brands, across different price points, and more brands have popped up. So they've become more affordable depending on what features you're looking for. Oftentimes, you can pick one up for less than $100 to do basic things like scan your car and figure out, what sensor needs to be replaced. But this one that we have here from AutoFix, this one is right now. This one is coming in at $399, but there's a $30 coupon. And this might seem really expensive, and by no means am I saying that this is cheap. However, for what it does, it is really, really cheap. This is backed by Autel Software. So Autel is a very big brand in the automotive car scanning industry, and that's pretty much who runs the software. And this is also pretty much a Android tablet. Now, unless you crack it to a certain extent, you aren't able to like download other apps on here. But it is a complete Android tablet, so you can screen record, you can screenshot, you can adjust like brightness and things like that. So it functions just like a regular tablet, with the added benefit of being a scan tool. So the scan tool functions like a regular app in this tablet. And I actually do have this one. So it comes with 2 years worth of free updates. It is bidirectional and it is Bluetooth. It can also function on Wi-Fi, but essentially it's wireless. And so this is really good if you're a solo mechanic or a DIYer and you want to hook up your bidirectional scan tool to test a module on your car, say it's in the engine bay, rather than being tethered by a cable that sometimes can't extend all the way to the engine. If you're doing your bidirectional tests and you want to actually put eyes on whatever it is that you're trying to test, it would be nice to have a wireless tool like this. Now, if you're saying $400, that's way too much, that's not really that great of a post-holiday deal, then the next scan tool that I would recommend is this one by Launch. And this is another one that I have. And full disclaimer, as soon as we made the video on the AutoFix scanner and we called it the best budget bidirectional scan tool, Launch sent over this exact scan tool that is their X431. That's what they call it. So right now, that one is coming in actually less than $100. So let's see here. Oh, sorry, less than $200. My apologies. And so less than half the price of the AutoFix. And you might be saying, well, what's kind of like the give and take here? One is this is not a traditional tablet, so you can't essentially exit out of the app to do other things. You don't have screen recording, but you can screenshot. You're tethered by a cable, and I'm not sure how long the cable is, but it's not the longest thing in the world. It's definitely not going to get you to your engine from your engine bay if you're hooked up to the OBD2 port. It is. I haven't done an actual test because there's no screen record, but it is a hair slower, in my opinion, than the AutoFix. If you're used to the regular $100 scan tools, then this thing is going to be or seem blazingly fast. And for what you're paying, less than 150 in this case, let's actually see what the select from plan. Oh, sorry. No, here it is. Let's see what this is. So there's actually another deal here where you can save 5% on other things. Oh, here you go. Oh, it's an extension to cable. Okay, so you can get like an extra foot, I suppose. That's really not going to do much for $12. I personally would probably pass on this. Unless, depending on your car, you really want that extra reach. It's not really going to get you that much farther or closer to the engine bay, at least with the 2 Series and 3 Series F chassis. But at 140, it's basically 140, maybe a little more after tax, closer to 150. You're getting a bidirectional scan tool that's pretty quick, that it can even read readiness. So if you're about to smog your car and you did something like you put in a catless downpipe and you now need to smog your car, so you put your cat back in, you detuned it. And just a quick tip, if you did do that, another thing that you'll want to do is you will want to relock the DME if you use something like boot mode. So you'll want to relock the DME and flash it back to the stock tune once you put on your cat. After driving around or doing the driving cycle, you can go into the OBD2 portion of this scan tool and check the readiness. Now, the AutoFix can do the same thing. Just the navigation is a little bit different because the software is different. But you can still check the readiness of your post-cat sensor, if it's reading the emissions, if it's on or not, because oftentimes when you run catless, you turn off that sensor. So you have to turn it back on, and it takes a while. It takes about 100 to 200 miles, or you can speed things up by doing the driving cycle. So those are the scan tools. I would say, like, if you're in the market for a scan tool and you're already going to spend about $70 to $100, just save up a little bit more and get this tool. Let's see. Launch is saying that they are doing how many years of free updates? Oh, wow. Wow. I don't think you guys would believe me if I didn't show this to you, but they're saying lifetime free Wi-Fi updates. So this is incredibly powerful that you have a free update. Now, like with all tablets, computers, the software gets old, right? So the IO gets old. After you read and write so many times to the memory of the device, it gets slow. So this isn't something that's going to last you, say, like 10, 20 years, but definitely, depending on how much you use it, could get you to 5 to 7 years. If you're somebody like a weekend warrior who probably breaks this thing out like not even once a month, this is going to last you for many, many years. And probably a better value for those type of people than the AutoFix, if you don't really care for the wireless. So that is an amazing deal, actually. Wow. Free updates for a lifetime. It's a really good deal, actually. Next up is a battery charger from Topdon. This is the exact same one that I have. It's Wi-Fi. It can not only repair your batteries, it can do trickle charge. It can test your batteries, whether it be lead acid, AGM, or lithium. And the reason why is because the charging parameters, or the algorithm for which it charges, it's dictated by the app. So essentially, if they create, say, like a new technology of battery comes out that requires a different algorithm or a different charging pattern, all they have to do is enter that program into the app, and this tool can be used for that new type of battery. Here it's coming in at $89, and there's a $10 coupon in there as well. So that basically covers the tax. So it's going to be about $90 after tax. And it really is a useful tool. Now, these leads up here, this is like if you want to permanently hook up the leads to your battery. Say like, for example, you have a motorcycle. That might be a useful tool for you during the wintertime. And it says, like in theory, like this is true, like this is how many different charging patterns it has. This is like what it has out of the box, but I don't see why they can't upgrade the app to adapt to different things. Now, car batteries aren't like computers that are changing every single year, so it's not very likely that this would happen. But for example, lithium batteries, right? So there's regular, I think it's, so there's LiPo 4 batteries, and then there's another type of lithium battery. So there's two different types of lithium. And say, for instance, they required a different charge cycle. That would be something that they can program into the app that can then send commands to this device in order to charge the battery appropriately. Because just as much as you don't want to put an AGM cycle on a lead acid and vice versa, you probably wouldn't want to interchange those charge cycles for a lithium battery as well. And one of the great things about a device like this, because it is controlled by the app, you can schedule your charge. So if you live in a state that charges you a different rate for your electricity bill, depending on the time of day, then maybe you'll want to do it when the charge for your electricity is at its lowest. You can also have it shut off after a certain amount of time as well. That way you don't overcharge the battery. All of those functions are really good. So you can see that there are other functions here as well. Testing, charging, and then cranking basically the overall health of your battery. So I would say like this is a really good tool to have. It served me well. Pretty much every time I've had to do any coding on the BMW, this is what I use. And I put it in a small little like airtight canister from Harbor Freight, and it's held up well. It served me well for, I think, 2 years now. So I'm very happy with it. Now, you can also just like turn it on, and it can, if I'm not mistaken, it can test, it can give you this readout. Basically, it can give you the voltage and the amperage if you're not plugged into power. But of course, if you want to do all the extra things like charge and everything, you will need to hook it up. And the next one is actually that we have up here. It's actually an expired deal that should have been running through today. And that is the Cobalt 4-drawer cart or service cart that is from Lowe's. And originally it was $169. So it was $100 off from Lowe's. And one of the things that I really like about this cabinet is that right out of the box, it comes with 4 swivel casters. A lot of people do the modification to the Harbor Freight one, and it's like $14, $7 a piece for the matching swivel casters. And also the tray is another $20. So if you just kind of watch a Lowe's website for this specific cart, when it goes on sale at $169, that's the same sale price as what the US General is going for, but it has the 2 locking casters and the 2 swivels. So it's going to be a little bit harder to pivot in tight places, and the tray is not included. Aesthetically, the reason why I prefer the Cobalt one as well, if the prices were the same, and say even if the Harbor Freight runs some really good deals sometimes. So let's just say you could buy the swivels, you could buy the tray from Harbor Freight, and it would be the same price. I would still pick the Cobalt because the trim is already blacked out. The wheels are already blacked out. And the only thing that I think is different other than that is that they use like 6-point bolts here on the bottom, whereas the Harbor Freight ones, they kind of use like those captive bolts that are still here on the side. They still use those, so it's a little bit flatter. Depending on what you're storing there, it may or may not be that big of a deal. If you're using it like I am for jack stands, it could cause them to wobble a little bit, but if that's not that big of a deal for you, then the bolt that they use at the bottom to retain the casters isn't that big of a deal. For me, it was a worthwhile trade-off, and I ended up having some extra like captive, like flat or low profile bolts that I used on the Cobalt one anyways. And also for me personally, the Lowe's is, I think it's like not even a mile and a half from my house, whereas the Harbor Freight is 10 miles from my house. So to load it up on a truck and basically travel with it over a shorter distance was a plus for me personally. But right now, Harbor Freight is running their US General four-drawer cart, and it expires on the 7th. The reason why I got the 4 versus the 5-drawer cart, I know a lot of people like the 5 because it's an extra drawer, but I actually needed the extra storage capacity at the bottom because I am using it for my jack stands, and I do like to have them up a little bit. That way I can just grab it, set it, and it's done. It's already in the position that I want. Not only that is that I have my my pack out vacuum, and in order to kind of like put it in there and take it out easily, I need that extra headroom. By having the 5-drawer cart there, it's a little bit more challenging. Another thing that I like about the 4-drawer cart is that it doesn't have that little detent that you have to switch on the side, or that locking tab on the side. There is a hack, and I am actually creating a video for this, but basically you have to drill out the rivets for the posts here in the back, and then you can remove the whole shaft that locks it into place. It's really easy, super reversible. I would say it takes like 10-15 minutes, and because it is reversible versus like just cutting them and not having it available at all, it is what I would recommend people do, all while it retains that same locking detent at the end. So that's some of the reasons why in this particular case I preferred the 4-drawer cart. Honestly, I did want because I work on the M235i a lot, I did want the Series 2 decal here so I could move the 2 over here and have it say 2 Series, but it is what it is. I would just say if you're in the market for a 4-drawer cart, pick which one is ever on sale and more easily accessible to you. The next thing that we have up is actually a collective. So this is going to be our number 4 item because, right? Yeah. So we did scanners were 1, the charger was 2, the cabinet was 3, and 4 we have, this is actually a new brand to me. So OMT, Orion Motor Tech. I'm going to say brakes because I actually have to do my brakes soon, but this other tool here, their spindle spreader tool, is actually really interesting to me because the normal spindle spreaders that you twist didn't really work on the 2 Series. The gap for the strut knuckle was a little bit too big, so I ended up having to use a screwdriver. On the 3 Series and somebody else's F22, it worked perfectly fine. It was just the M235i that it didn't work as cleanly. So I believe all of these are on sale, but one of the reasons why I like the Orion Motor Tech power bleeder is because the connection down here that hooks up to the reservoir from the hose of the bleeder, it's a quick connect versus the, I think it's like a 14 and a 17 that you have to use with the other brand that I have. And unless you use thread tape, it leaks. And these oil extractors are so much better to use than a turkey baster. Once you kind of get it into the canister, it just holds, versus a turkey baster, it continues to leak out. So all of these are on sale right now. Let's see what we have here. So the power bleeder, it is on sale for $44. Oh, that's what it's called. It's the Motive Power Bleeder. The Motive Power Bleeder, I believe it is. Oh yeah, so see, it's a quick connect that you can see right there. Now I haven't tested this out just yet because I'm not like exactly ready to do my brake ship, but as soon as I do, I'm actually going to try this. So let's see here. So for $45, let's call it what it is. Let's call $45. So it's about $13 more expensive. And you have the quick connect there. You also have the wrench to loosen the top in order to relieve the pressure, which is the only way to relieve the pressure once you have it pressurized. As soon as I try it, I'll let you guys know, but this is a really interesting brand to me. You can see that I already have them all in my cart ready to go. The next one that we have up here is the oil extractor, $20, and it's $5 off. You have all of these attachments associated with it. I do have another one, but just because I do actually want to try this brand out, I'm not sure why, but Amazon has been kind of pushing them to me. And my favorite color is blue, is mostly it. I've used other things of theirs in the past, like I used their thread chaser kit. Again, the case was blue. Their vacuum pump that can also be used as a suction for your brake calipers. I got it because it was blue, mostly just because it is my favorite color, but also the prices are very competitive as well. And the last thing that we have up here is the spindle spreader, or the strut spreader, I should say. It's a 16 millimeter. They include it there for you, and you just have to hold it down with a wrench as you're tightening it down. So I would assume that it can go, it's more versatile, I should say, than the typical ones that you see. Let's see if there's, than something like these. All right. There's another one here. Let's see, $17 versus, okay, so this one is $1 more expensive than the other one that we saw, but this one's blue. So sometimes it is just you want something to kind of match the other things that you have going on, or just the color scheme that you like for your tools. The last holiday deals that we have up here are too much for me to cover in one go as far as like any one particular thing, but like places like Home Depot are still running sales, but a lot of their M18 deals, they've sold out and aren't available anymore. However, places like Tekton, Harbor Freight, and Olsa Tools are all having sales right now still. In fact, Tekton, one of the biggest supporters of the channel so far, they actually have something now called an outlet. And their outlet is basically like their scratch and dent items. Or like their, so this actually is incorrect. This is not 14 to 15. It's 4 to 14. It's like their old kits, their old socket kits that have been replaced by, in this case, the 1/4 inch goes from 4 to 15 now. They're bit driver sets that didn't include the triple squares. those are included here. But also their scratch and dent items. They also have their wrenches, right? So their old 6-point wrenches are all up here at a discounted price. And they're all still backed by their Tekton warranty. And so if you're looking to pick up something specific, whether it be a one piece or whether it be an entire kit, and you don't really care that it's like in the most pristine condition, or maybe you don't really care to have a 15.25-inch size, you'll definitely want to check out the outlet section of Tekton's website. Ulsa Tools is another one that I'm starting to get acquainted with recently. And the reason why is because on Project Farm, their 3/8-inch, I think it's, what is it? They have it's a 12-inch ratchet, won like #1 overall on Project Farm's ranking guide. I think maybe it came second to Snap-on, but when you factor in price, Ulsa Tools came out on top. And I believe these are all on sale. It just doesn't advertise it. Let's see here. So here you can see that their ratchet, I think this is their 1/4-inch, is normally $85 or $86, and it's coming in at $79. Not everything on their website is on sale, but a lot of it is. And you can also go on Amazon and find stuff from Ulsa Tools over there. That way you don't have to pay for the shipping if you only need like a couple of things. And you can always pick up stuff from the Amazon used section, or maybe it's just an open box thing, or sometimes the sales translate from the manufacturer's website to also their Amazon store. And as we alluded to earlier, of course, Harbor Freight is running a deal. The one that I'm looking forward to is the one that starts tomorrow, and that's 25% off any one item in store. There are a few exclusions there, but I'm actually looking to, what I'm picking up, I think I'm going to pick up one of their torque wrenches and maybe a couple other items. Oh, their pliers. That's right. Their new pliers. And I know that they're Snap-on knockoffs, but for me, I'm not a professional. I'm not using the wrenches in that capacity or that frequently, but I am definitely looking to pick up these pliers, as well as the other ones. Right, so I know it's not the most original design, right? They're basically borrowing this design from Snap-on. I don't know if they like have shared rights to them or whatever, but somehow it's legal for them to sell. And for me, at this price point, you factor in the 25% off, why not? So those are just some of the things that I found really useful. But if you guys have anything that you'd like to recommend as far as useful items, by all means, please share them. Let's see here. How come this is... There we go. And now we will open it up for Q&A. Let's see what we have here. US Vidgem, I got the AutoFix D1 Lite on Christmas for $319. Haven't powered it up or been in my car since Christmas Eve. COVID has me down. Oh no. Well, I hope you're doing well, and I hope that you make a speedy recovery soon. That way you can enjoy your tool and your car. I still haven't figured out how to adjust this. Let's see here. Added a Wi-Fi point in my garage, so if I have a signal for this, so I have a signal for this and my Android screen. Okay, right on, right on. Yeah, definitely having good Wi-Fi for, well, actually, I don't know. I think once you're in the tablet, you're in. I don't think you need it during the operation aspect of it, but I could be wrong. I don't think you do. Like initially to log in, you do. After that, I'm not sure because you've already downloaded the software. Bro, just up badge the Lowe's cart. Yeah, I am gonna take it off, but I wanted the 2 series. I don't know. I mean, if somebody debadges their U.S. General 2 Series 2 cart, let me know. I'll take the decals from you. Yes, right now I do have the Motiv. One of the things that I didn't like about it was that you do have to use thread tape, and if like you're trying to do a rush job and maybe like you don't remember to put the thread tape, because you have to remember to put it on every single time, it is annoying, but it is a very good bleeder. I've used it many times, like not only on the jobs that I've recorded and I've shared with you, but also a lot of jobs like off camera. So it is a good bleeder, and one of the things that I like about it is that the handle, once you're done with it, it locks down in place. The Orion Motortech, it doesn't. I think I would say if you already have the Motiv one, don't get the Orion Motortech. For me, I can kind of justify it. You know, it's like a kid on Christmas, right? You know, you have all the toys and you just want to play. I can kind of justify it because 1, it's a write-off. 2, it's kind of like you get to make a direct comparison for YouTube. That way, somebody who doesn't have it is going to say, is the Motiv really worth the extra money? You know, $13 is not a lot of money, but you can imagine you could get a power bleeder and an oil extractor for the same price of one power bleeder. So, or is it just better to get the one that's more expensive? That way you don't have to keep buying another or buy another bleeder again. We'll find out in a little bit. I am going to get that one though. I like the quick connect function. If you guys couldn't tell when I did the power washer, like just threading stuff back on and off, it's a pain. So quick connect, if you can, it's the way to go. Jonathan, hey Fritz, happy holidays. Not really a tool related question, but what do you think of B58 cars compared to N55 cars? I have a 435 and sometimes I feel like I'm missing out on not having a 440. I would say the B58 is good. It's theoretically more reliable than the N55. I would say out of the box, the N55 is more reliable. When you start upgrading things, the B58 is more reliable because it's really the cooling components of the B58 that make it unreliable. And I'm not necessarily talking about the water pump or the thermostat, but more or less the hoses, the plastic hoses, some of the rubber hoses. Those are kind of like what go bad first, or those are like the fracture points of that car first. And I think somebody did a breakdown of this. Is if you get like a M car, right? So like a M3, M4, M2, one of the things that you have to do right away is oh my goodness, it's on the tip of my tongue. What is it? Crank hub. You have to do the crank hub because those things are prone to slipping. I think somebody did a thing where it's like if you basically had like, it was used, I think it's like you have like 30 or 40 grand and you buy an M car or you buy something with a B58 in it. The B58, you can basically go complete stage 2. You don't have to worry about the crank hub. You can address all the cooling issues. So you can do basically all of the essential routine maintenance, preventive maintenance things on a B58 car. You put that money into an M car, you get the M car, and you do the crank hub. That's it. So personally, me, I have been thinking about getting a B58, but I'm not going to get rid of the M235i. If I get a B58, we're replacing the F30, which has the N26 engine. I think if you're going from a 4 to a 6, it's fine. It would be like having to get a new phone every time there's a new phone, right? It's like you go from Apple 14 to 15. You have the 14, you can probably skip the 15. Depending on your usage, you could probably get away with not upgrading to the next year's one, which is probably going to be a 16. And then the next time you upgrade, you get the 17. Just because your car is not necessarily the newest kid on the block anymore, you're not really missing out on anything. Edkin finally changed the valve cover and gaskets. Right on. Broke one bolt, not realizing torque spec was inch-pounds, not foot-pounds. And I just hand tightened all 26 and no leak so far. Okay, right on. Yeah, it doesn't take much. The only thing is that feeling that resistance as you go, it's not going to feel the same just because the gasket gets tightened down, right? So you'll meet resistance sooner in the first few set of bolts, but towards the end, you're going to have a little bit more give before you feel that resistance because the gasket has already compressed a little bit since you started. But if you have no leaks, by all means, I mean, roll with it. Which bolt did you break, by the way, out of curiosity? And congratulations. That job is not easy. If some people are going to say that it's easy, it's definitely tedious. And it's like, it's just so repetitive, or it's time consuming too. So it kind of wears on you a little bit. Jonathan, really? You say the N55 out of the box is more reliable? Interesting. Didn't know the B58 still suffered from those weak points since the expansion tank is on the other side. I thought it was fixed. So it's not even really the expansion tank. It really is the hosing. So the N55, you can break that coolant, that expansion tank line, the one that runs across the top. You can if you lean on it. But the N55... See, the other thing too with the N55 is that when people started tuning their N55s, it had already been around for a while. And so you don't necessarily see all the big issues of people saying like, oh, my N55 blew up. When the B58 came onto the scene, a lot of tuning platforms like immediately tuned it, not realizing that if you tune it, it's going to cause those plastic components to break and your car's going to explode. It's really just the tubing or the piping exploded. If you don't go like stage one, so this is what I mean, like really, I mean, to a certain extent out of the box, right? So like stock for stock, no tune, no nothing. N55 after all of the heat cycles will probably be more reliable. If you go even to like stage one, then the N55 is definitely more reliable. But if you spend just a little money to upgrade those little plastic components, some of those rubber hoses, then no brainer, right? So I'm kind of threading the needle very thin on that statement. You upgrade those few components, B58 all the way. So I would say like if, like for us, right? Like car enthusiasts, yeah, you'll probably want to go B58, upgrade the hosing and stuff. But if I'm going to do this like for my dad or somebody who's like not a car person, they just want to get in the car and drive, then you put them in an N55 and they won't notice a difference. Vendetta Customs. I got the Next Peak battery charger for 20. Oh, right on. Next Peak. Let's look that up because I am having cooling issues I can't figure out. So the charger keeps my car alive while I operate on my 14 M235i. What is that? Next Peak battery charger. This one, yeah, 26 bucks. 10 amp smart fully. Fully automatic. Okay, right on. Let's see, what kind of batteries can it do? Smart control. So it seems like you just hook it up and it just does its thing. Oh, but you do have a mode selector there for, okay, so it looks like you have steady is what I'm going to assume that is. So that's like a trickle charger. You have your AGM, your wet batteries, motorcycles, and repair. Not bad. The only thing that this one is missing, I would say, is the lithium battery. But not a lot of these units can repair lithium batteries. Most of the time you'll use it for like standby, so for trickle charging. But this is a great option. 26 bucks, great find. Let's see here, Jonathan. True, I love my 435, especially since it has a majority of options, and then I retrofitted some such as the MBT Evo. Nice. That's like the first thing I usually recommend. That small screen is awful. Head unit and OEM LED headlights. Also another one. The halogen headlights on those BMW models were not the best. I like the idea of an almost fully loaded 435. If you love your car, you love your car, right? At the end of the day, if an opportunity comes up, then by all means, go for it. But I wouldn't say like you should stretch yourself or you should be on the hunt for 440i just because it's kind of like the upgrade to your car. If you're still enjoying your car, roll with it. Like I said, I have no intentions on upgrading the M235i anytime soon. I think it's a great car, still reliable, quick. Plus, I live in the Bay Area, so traffic is a huge limiting factor on whatever car that I get and how much I can push it. Edkin, current mileage, 78,000 miles. Hope water pump and thermostat last one more year until I get a new car. Okay, right on. But with FCP Euro, it's pretty, if you catch them, or if you caught them, I should say, on their Black Friday sale, water pump, thermostat, lifetime warranty, shouldn't be an issue. If you plan to do like the cooling upgrade, like with the radiator and I think I would say the next like upgrade, it would be the oil cooler. If you decide to do all that at once, doing these is much easier because the radiator's out, so you have more space and you have the lifetime warranty. But Edkin, what car are you thinking about getting? Jonathan, what line broke on me 5 days into... Oh my goodness, it's always that line. For N55 owners, it's that line, but usually... I'll admit it. I mean, I broke mine too. It's self-induced, right? It's like you just lean over the car and you're like looking at stuff and all of a sudden, right? Yeah, that line is it. But it usually, because it's low pressure, it usually doesn't break on its own. It's just plastic, heat cycling. You put a little bit of pressure on it, forget it. A lot of shops, not necessarily BMW dealerships, but just like dealers or repair shops that deal a lot with BMWs, keep those lines, like a bunch of them, in stock just because of how often they break. Vendetta Customs, I just did my water pump on thermostat and still overheats on me and blows the expansion tank to water pump hose off. The bottom of the tank. I can't figure out why though. Yeah, I have no idea. I've never heard of that actually. That is pretty extreme. Yeah, I have no idea. A 14 N55 overheating to that extent with the water pump. So if you did do your water pump, you have new coolant. Unless there's a blockage somewhere, like in your radiator, Or, I mean, even if you had a blockage in your oil, but I would say check the condition of your radiator maybe. But still, like, it would have to be a significant blockage. Water pump thermostat. Your hoses? Help me out here. Anyone, if they can help out Vendetta Customs. Replace the water pump thermostat and it still overheats ridiculously. I have no idea. Jonathan, I have the stock. Is that M Performance from factory, debating if I should even go do stage 1. Oh, M Performance Power Kit. I do not know too much about this. Well, if you do BM3, I would say just pay the extra $50, do all of the off-the-shelf maps, and that way you can do stage 1, see if there is actually a difference. And this would actually be good for the community as well. If you do stage 1 and you don't notice anything, was it worth the difference of getting it versus knowing that you could have just gotten BM3 anyways? And then if you wanted to go to stage 2, you have it there because you paid for the $50 upgrade. And there, because of the downpipe and all those things, you should experience a difference for sure. US Vidgem. That coolant line broke on me when they were prepping the car for delivery. Oh my goodness. Well, at least they covered it, right? I hope they covered it. Yeah, I wish there was like a cover or something that we could put over it to protect it. But yeah, that thing just breaks all the time. I wish there was another solution like how we did with the breather hose on the valve cover, where you can just kind of keep the ends and then just reuse something like a silicone tubing or something like that. But that option isn't available for that hose. Edkin, I am drooling over the new X2 M35. Oh, okay, so you want a bigger car. Yeah. I mean, it's a bigger car, but it's like the smaller one out of that lineup versus the X. I mean, other than the X1. But yeah, those X models are really, really nice. Like that X5M. Whew, yeah, we put a Dyna exhaust on that not too long ago at the shop, and it's nice. Like not just like the performance of the car, but the interior of the car, the steering wheel. It really is luxurious. You know, if you want to cruise, if you want to enjoy the drive, if you just kind of want to be pampered a little bit, that's the way to go. Vendetta Customs. Yeah, that one, it seems legit and has been working flawlessly. Yeah, I still don't know what's going on. Yeah. I was trying to think of it too, even after, but. So no radiator. I mean, everything else, like, what else could it be? If you have a scan tool, I guess you could, like if you use one of the scan tools that we talked about today, you could use the bi-directional functionality to test the water pump. And I think like it can send a signal to the thermostat if I'm not mistaken. So basically like you'll hear it turn on and like, you'll hear that kind of like little pop sound to hear that it's sending a signal to there. And if you don't hear that noise, then because you just replaced the thermostat, you know that that's not it. Maybe there's like a connection that's loose or corroded. I have no idea. I mean, Yeah, because it's an electric water pump too. So, oh, you cracked the first bolt on the valve cover. Use the bolt extractor to get it out. So you had to put in your old one then, because those are captive, right? Fritz, when are you planning to do the water pump and thermostat? Probably after the breaks. I'm hoping to address some small little things. I might also be moving next month. So I'm trying to knock out, like, I have like a list of parts and some stuff like tool things that I have to address. So I might not get to it to next year. If I somehow cruise through, what do we have here? The next 3 days of this year, maybe I can get to it early next month. But realistically, maybe it might be shelved until February or March. AR, my car makes a slight rattle noise whenever it's cold. I start it up, or whenever it's cold and I start it up. I have a F3320i. You have any idea what it may be? Goes away when the engine gets warm. Yeah, so that is the I don't know necessarily why it rattles, unless something is loose or your catalytic converter is starting to kind of come apart. But essentially, that is the catalytic converter warming process, where your RPMs kind of are elevated in the very, very beginning, just to kind of heat up your catalytic converters, and then it kind of, your RPMs will drop back down to normal. That usually only happens on a cold start. You'll also notice that like the rev, like it's really, really loud in comparison to when you start up the car, and then it's like, and then it'll come down. That's just the warming process of the car. That's very normal. Jonathan, I was driving to the dealer to get touch-up paint, and I noticed stream coming from under the hood, so I pulled in and popped the hood. I saw coolant from the upper radiator hose where that line snaps in. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that. I mean, it's possible too that it happens over time. That thing it's just so small, fragile. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that thing is a nightmare too. But good thing for us is that usually shops and dealerships, they have it readily available. Oh my goodness. Well, I guess at least you're on the way to the dealership and it got addressed. I wonder what caused that then. It could just be heat cycling. Like if it had never been replaced before, that could be it. Vendetta Customs. I did a leak down thinking head gasket, but it's not the issue. Okay, so no head gasket. I still don't. Yeah, if you can have somebody like run a bidirectional scan tool on it, or if you take it to a shop for them to diagnose, that might be your best bet, because I can't think of anything off the top of my head. And honestly, even if I were to, it's just a guess. This one you definitely have to diagnose. USIGM is suggesting the purge procedure, but it flows decent. Fan relay, you can test that on a bidirectional scan tool as well, but I don't know how to test it. On that, you just have to, it's hard to test without a tool. If you have the tool, you can go into the parameters or that section of the car and then turn it on. It'll just turn on its own. The other thing too is when you scan your car, even if you don't have a bidirectional scan tool, you could scan the car, and if you get a code that pops up, you just run the code and see if that has something to do with your fan. Faulty thermostat. Yeah, if you got it from FCP Euro, you could always send it back and say it was faulty. And Performance Power Kit adds 20 horsepower and 30 torque. On B58, it adds about 40 and 40. The car had it when I bought it from the original owner. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would say like stuff like that, it's not a huge selling point. It's not because with the technology that's out, right? So if you're trying to sell your car, that might not be a huge selling point because the person could always say, well, I'm going to get BM3 anyway, so it's not going to matter. And BM3 is so much more affordable compared to whatever I'm sure BMW is charging. It's not like saying you have M performance brakes versus the standard brakes. That is actually a big difference maker, right? And if somebody were to walk up on you and say, well, your brakes don't matter because I'm going to get Brembos, it's like, dude, like Brembos are like $3,000, $5,000, depending on the make and model of the car. You could be running it up to $10,000 or more if you have a shop install it. It's not a cheap thing to do versus BM3. It's like a few $100. You catch it on sale. Yeah. So it's also like the value to price ratio versus OEM to aftermarket, as well as like what the car is going to do. If you're eventually going to go stage 2, then the M Performance Power Kit isn't as valuable anymore. And most people that are going to buy these older cars are going to go to stage 2. So it's a moot point because the car would be overwritten at that point anyways. But no one is ever going to say, oh, I'm just going to take out my brakes, right? I'm going to go to the standard brakes just because. Yeah, I'm interested though. Was that a selling point that the previous owner was trying to make on that car? Let's see here. Vendetta Customs. Yes, the purge process works. I've had to replace the coolant due to it, leaving the expansion tank 3 times now. I have a gasket set coming. But even if you were leaking, I mean, I don't understand why the car would overheat to that extent if you had a leak. The only thing, if it is a leak, when was the last time you drained your oil? If you have oil and coolant mixing, you'll have that milky color. And so that could be a reason why you're overheating, is because the coolant is not going to where it needs to go in sufficient amounts. But also, so you're technically losing coolant. Also too is that would make your oil thicker, less efficient. If you want, you don't necessarily have to change your oil. You could always crack the oil fill and take a look inside. And if it's not like that dark brown color, if it's like that creamy light brown color, then you know you have a leakage there. That's probably going to be your oil filter housing gasket and your oil cooler gasket that you'll want to replace. Taking a shot in the dark. Like the live Q&A, keep it up. Thanks, Miller Time. Hope all this was helpful for you. And if you can help me figure out what's going on with Vendetta Customs car, it'd be much appreciated. I'm just taking a shot in the dark here. I have no idea what's going on. I'm just kind of going off of what you say and extrapolating, if you will. There's no way to know. Jonathan, when you did the bleeding procedure, did you set the heat to highest, fan speed on lowest, and had AC off? Did you bleed it twice for added measure? Okay, this is for you, Vendetta Customs. Let's see. Gasket coming, and I will be doing a pan up to the valve cover to eliminate chance it is head gasket failure, hoping someone has insight. Ooh. I haven't heard of these cars, and even a 14 at that year, unless the car's been beaten on and tons of miles, head gaskets haven't really been that big of an issue on these cars. I even turned my low beams on. 5 times you did it. All bubbles are 100% gone. Scan tool is a launch tool. I can turn on all of it with tools. So, okay, so the fan works. is a temp sensor switch. It's not necessarily a switch, so I'm not exactly sure how it works mechanically, but essentially, like once the temperature gets so high, the fan turns on. How it determines that temperature, I'm not sure. Like especially in the 2 Series, because we don't have much input as far as a gauge is concerned, because we don't have oil temperature. Like the only way to, and that's not the most convenient thing in the world either. Overheating at idle. I mean, if you had like another gauge to check water, I'm not sure when it's supposed to turn on. Okay, here we go. 98 degrees Celsius. So when you've been basically cruising for a while. So for me, this is like I'm halfway to work, so this is about 10 to 15 miles. Because for me, it's about a mile to the freeway. Yeah, so I let my car warm up for a little bit. I let it warm up for like a minute or two. Drive moderately, so 40 miles an hour ish. Not even to third gear, all the way to the freeway. And then from there, it's about 70, 80. Again, not even 3,000 RPM because you're in 6th gear. I can get to 98 in about 10 to 15 minutes, I believe. So the fan should be on at that time. I would say if your commute is similar, or if you can do like a 10-minute, 15-minute drive and you get that hot and your fan isn't on, then you know. But you said that the fan works. Like if you send a command to the fan to turn on from your launch tool and it works, it's not the fan. It is whatever is supposed to send the message to the fan to turn on. That's the issue. AR, thank you. Nope, no problem. Jonathan here, not sure if this helps, but I had a rattle with my old E46 and it turned out to be Van. Ooh, hope not. I usually tend to lean towards like simpler is better, but I hope not. But you're absolutely right, Jonathan. Not sure if that's even remotely the same, but that was my experience. I'm going to hope not. But if you get back to us, that is something to check. So if what I said isn't true about your catalytic converter, or maybe there's just like a clamp that's loose, then Jonathan might give you something to look down there as well. Simon, veteran N55 owner, have 160K ride on my X535i. I've done just about every maintenance. I'll be curious to see how B58s hold up at 10 years and 150K plus. I am too. But I think since like BMW did that collaboration with Toyota, like with the Supra, you know, that being like the B58, they borrowed a lot of technology from Toyota as far as the reliability side. And so I'm very confident in that, right? Toyota makes very reliable cars and they wouldn't want to slap their name on a car that's prone to breaking. Like if they were to do a collaboration, there's no way that Toyota would put their name on the N54. I don't even think that they would put their name on the S65 just because of the crank hub. But the B58, it's easy to replace. It's easy to fix, right? You come out with a new generation, you put in the new materials for those hoses, and boom, it's bulletproof, right? Machining a whole new crank hub is tough. There's a lot more R&D that needs to go into that. The procedure effect, like if you're, say for instance, if you're Toyota, right, and you have the engine come in and you need to do a crank hub, that's a very intensive job that's going to take at least one of your mechanics, probably two, off the line for a long period of time. If you just need to replace a coolant hose here or an oil line here, that's like not even half a day's worth of work for one of your mechanics, right? Depending on which line it is, you could do it in less than an hour, right? And so even to R&D, that same tube, if you already have the mold for it, it's going to be really easy. Let's see here. Try back flashing your heater core. Oh, back flushing your heater core blockage and build up like to happen there. Okay, I get what you're saying. Okay, so Vendetta Customs, we got a couple of ideas here for you. Hopefully one of these works. Hopefully we would get your car up and running very, very soon. Vendetta Customs, have you tried coolant cycle? It runs the pump about 10 minutes to circulate the coolant. Okay, here we go. We got some good ideas for you here. Thank you, Jonathan. I'll check it out. Right on, right on. I do have the M Performance brakes as a factory option. It sounds like your car had everything. Making me a little jealous here. But I'm just saying, right? So that would be a perfect selling point, or an up, like somebody would say, why is your MT35i or why is your car more expensive? Brakes are a legit reason to say, this is why my car costs more than the other ones on the market. They don't have the M Performance brakes. The M Performance package is not necessarily it. What would be your 5 dream car garage? Only allowed 2 BMWs. Ooh, in all honesty, I used to say the Supra. I just don't like the ride position as well as the visibility out of it. So I would go M2 CS for my first one. The second BMW that I would pick, second BMW that I would pick, and I would say I would go F87 M2 CS. Ooh. The second BMW, I actually don't know. That's a tough one. Just because I would say E92 M3. I know the maintenance behind it is a nightmare, but if we're talking about like in a perfect world, perfect scenario, E92 M3, just so that you got have the V8. As far as the 3 other non-BMW cars, just to mix it up a little bit so that you have a front wheel drive car, I would say you go, I would say Civic Type R. I mean, Hondas last forever, right? So like if you're working on your cars, the one that's probably not really going to be up in the air that much is like something like a Civic. So it's reliable, front wheel drive, comes in manual. Number 4. It would depend on the time that this would happen, but I'd probably pick a truck of some kind just for like hauling, like personal reasons, just hauling whatever. Whoever makes a manual, same thing, just get a truck. So that would be 4. 5 would be I think this is also kind of like being practical. Like Now, if I wanted something like really... Oh, so this is, if we're talking like dream, I've always wanted to do something like a Cayman, but an engine swap. So you do like a Cayman with a 911 engine. That's something that I would love to do. The Cayman's just really underpowered, but the engine placement is perfect. The weight distribution on that, amazing. That's always been like one of the things that I was like, like if I had enough time and resources and all that stuff just to have fun and mess around, that would be like one of the things that I would like to build. I don't know. I mean, maybe when I get older, it would change. Supercars don't, like, they're nice to look at, right? They're nice, but like the cars that I listed, they're not perfect, right? They require a little bit of work. They're not like amazing out of the box. And one of the things that I would like to do with all of these cars is to mess around with them. Something more than, okay, you slap on suspension, you slap on wheels, and there you go. It's a little boring. So that's probably why I didn't pick any supercars. It's just, there's not much to do on them, because when it comes to aftermarket parts and resources, people know that when you have that type of money, you're not, unless it's like wheels and suspension, you're not doing much, right? Most of the stuff is being done at the dealership and whatnot. And so there's not as much customizability with those cars. But what's your five car dream garage? Not just for AR, but for anybody. Jonathan, I got it at a used car lot, so it wasn't necessarily a selling point, but it was in the sense of finding a car with as many options as possible. Okay, right on. Yeah, just as long as they didn't try to be like, oh, this car is worth an extra $500 because of this package, was what I was trying to get at. So good for you then. It sounds like you're very happy with it and that you got a good deal on it, but just let me know to confirm. But again, you have a really, really good car. Enjoy it while you have it. Vendetta, oil is good. Coolant loss is only from expansion tank, none in oil or in exhaust. And warded cylinder to cylinder and head. Could be. I mean, at this point, you're shooting. It seems like everything else but this is kind of been checked out. Let's see here. Sorry to take away from the live show. No. It's fine. It's like, I mean, by all means, like I'm stuck because I'm limited in my capacity in this knowledge area, right? In this information space. But hopefully we have somebody here that can answer it. Or if not, as you go through your thing, I welcome you to come back and let us know what it is, because things like this, you're not going to be the first and you're not going to be the last. Maybe for us, you'll be the first and hopefully the last if it is this severe. But in case anybody ever comes up, I would love to have this information available. That way, people can get to the solution to their problem faster. So I do appreciate your question. And if everything was easy, then it would take away some of the fun of it, right? So like my 5 dream car garage, they're not perfect cars. They all need a little bit of work. Same thing. I appreciate your question. 107 degrees Celsius is where it shoots the hose. Really? Shoots the hose off. Could it be the connection? Because I sometimes I regularly get the car at 110. I've never had an issue. Since I've detuned the car or went back to the stock tune and put my catalytic converter on for smog reasons, I can get to like 110 no problem. Back when I was back when I had the VRSF cat or downpipe in and the stage 2 tune, I wouldn't see 100 that often. If I idled for a really long time, then maybe. So I don't understand why 107 it shoots it off. Yeah, and I'm at Celsius too, because my gauge is, I think it's made overseas, so they're using metric units. Thank you all for helping me think about this issue from different angles. Thanks so much. Yeah, Vendetta Customs. I'm happy to help in whatever capacity I can. Like I said, I'm very limited in this area. I'm hoping somebody else can lend some information here. US Vidgem and Soul Slinger, I think they're more capable than I am, and definitely two people that I would lean on in this category for sure. So if you ever find out what it is, let us know. More than happy to have you back, and feel free to hit us with another stumper. Jonathan, I even have the M Performance side skirt decals. Oh my. Those are nice, actually. I'm not sure about the big like logo, like M Performance on there. I like the side skirts in the sense that it's a break from the paint color, so it's not just like one solid color, but the side skirts aren't obnoxiously out, so like your passengers wouldn't necessarily like step on them or kick them. It's kind of in alignment with the car and gives it that nice little break. Let's see here. Black Z8 for the second. Okay, right on. Z8 for the win. Definitely the F82 M2 CS. What about the M5 CS? Honestly, the 5 Series is too big for me, in the sense of I want a car that handles pretty nimbly. I guess if I was cruising, like if I was doing like a road trip from here to LA, 5 Series is fine. But if I want to, like when I think of like these cars, I'm thinking of like my typical commute. I wouldn't necessarily want to haul a 5 Series for more than like a week or two. I think my old G37 handles very much like a 5, like it's very long in the tooth. You have to account for it when you take the turns. It's you just have to account for that extra length and weight in the car and the extra height. That's why it's not there. I mean, yeah, you could do all the suspension stuff with it, but if I already, it's almost like I already have an M car from the F generation with the M2 CS, so I wanted to kind of deviate from that. And it's a V8 is the E92 M3. That's why I picked it. Or even the X6M. Okay, the X6M could replace the truck, but then I'm cheating, right? Then I'm going to 3 BMWs versus just the 2 that I was allotted. Jonathan is saying, I think this is your third, right? Saleen S7 twin turbo. This is 4, your McLaren F1LM. Let's see. You had 1, 2, 3. We know. Okay, yeah. So you have one more, Jonathan. No luxury or supercars. Yeah. If you told me like cars and I can't fix them, then yes, I dip into that space. But if these are cars that I can tinker with, then usually luxury and supercars are not on the list. I feel like the amount of fun that you can have with them mechanically is very limited. If we're talking about like you get one car straight from the factory, you go for a drive, then yeah, I'm probably going to pick all supercars. Because even like the MTCS, like that stock suspension is not amazing. None of them necessarily are. I think Porsche, once you start getting into like Porsche territory, once you enter that kind of price range, that's where like the OEM suspension starts to get really good. I would say like BMWs, like you could go to most name brand, whether it be like a super expensive one like KW or Bilstein, or a cheaper one like oh my goodness, what's that other what is their, I remember Fitment Industries, but I don't remember the suspension that they use. BC Racing. You could even put BC Racing on a BMW, even if you have EDC, and it's going to be better. Now, you can't put BC Racings on a Porsche exactly, and it's going to be better suspension. If you're talking like early 90s, maybe, yeah. But you're not going to go on a GT4 and put on BC Racing coilovers. You're not going to go there unless you're coming in there with something like KWs. I know Fortune Auto is starting to like really beef up their catalog. You could put Bilstein in there, but yeah, like Porsche, that's where you really start seeing some really good suspension out of the box. Let's see here. Fair enough, that makes sense. Yeah. As far as like wanting to tinker with them, Jonathan, yeah, I love it. Okay, right on. Here we go. US Vigim, gotta run. All right. Thanks for being here, even though that you were sick. I hope you feel better, and Happy New Year. Hope no matter how good or bad this year was for all of you, anybody who has to run, I hope 2024 is a better year for everybody. Like here at work, you know, a lot of people are saying, oh, like, you know, we're going to have a new president, so things are going to change, and like this might get better, that might get worse. All of that stuff, honestly, I feel like most of us are in control of like how good or bad our lives are. Don't let like one event every 4 years dictate how good or bad your year is. It's just not worth it, right? Don't let anybody else have that much control over your life. Your life is, if you want it to be, it'll be good, right? And that's what, like I said, like I was saying to Vendetta Customs, if you hit us with a stumper, right, it'll get us stuck this time around. Next time we'll come back stronger, we'll come back more knowledgeable, and we'll be able to help more people, right? A bad day is one bad day. It doesn't mean that's going to be bad week, bad year. But yes, I hope everybody has a happy new year to start off with, and a better year than the year before every single year. AR. The M1, oh, I forgot about that. That one is a banger too, but I said what I said. M5CS, our Calian, Subaru, okay, going to Subi, VXR, and a Moz. Oh, yeah, I forgot about the Miata too. For what? Yeah. See, and then when we do this, it's like, oh my goodness, I forgot about this car, but then it's like, which one would you take out? So Miata's a banger too. You do engine swap on. It's so light too. It's so light. The community is so strong. The aftermarket scene is like endless. Yeah, Miata. And it's so cheap. Like you get away with like a small wheel and tire package. Yeah. I mean, you go to a junkyard, you get replacement parts like panels, whatever. It's so easy. Vendetta Customs, I will. Thank you guys. All right. Yeah, Vendetta. Hope it all gets sorted out. Hope you stay safe. And if we don't see you until then, Happy New Year. Please come back. Jonathan, you need the BMW M3 E92 pickup. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Actually, in the shop, we're working on an E92 next week. We're doing a Turner exhaust on it. Um, but I feel like E92s always come into the shop. It's such a classic look. The aftermarket community on it is really strong. And I think it's because you do need to do the bearings. It's such a critical thing, right? Almost like the crank hub. It's such a critical thing that community is like maintenance first before like aero, before power. It's like maintenance first, right? Like the biggest hiccup of that platform is a maintenance related thing. Some people will say like the N55, it's the power, it needs more power, right? So like sometimes the hiccups are like not necessarily what will break first, but it's like the thing that most people in the community will say this is what needs to be addressed first. I think it's with things like crank hubs, things like bearings, it really puts the community in alignment as far as like how mature they are and how willing they are to help other people. So that's why I think the E92 community is so strong. It's because one of the things that you have to do is an essential thing to keep the car running. Yeah, exactly. You're spot on about the Miata and very cheap parts. Yeah. I don't know why I didn't think of that. I honestly, I probably know why. It's a convertible. I'm not in love with convertibles. It's the exact same reason why I would pick the Supra over the Z4. That's probably why. I mean that's my fault, and it's also good too, right? I'm glad that we all didn't pick the same cars, and I'm glad you brought it up. Miller time, Avi for our Vendetta, check hose, expansion tank defects, ensure the clips are actually secure. If good, pressure test, free rental at AutoZone. Oh, that's a nice. See, we're learning. I didn't even know that they did the free rentals for the pressure test at AutoZone. Check for the adapter at 15 psi and see if the hose pops. AutoZone does that. I feel like there's somebody on YouTube or Instagram, it could be even TikTok too, that I see all the time now. They're like, I think it's AutoZone. Like AutoZone is like the biggest ripoff. All their parts are like, all their prices are inflated. Their parts or whatever that they sell is like really cheap. So I guess maybe if their tool rental is really, really strong, then maybe that's why. Because if you go there for your diagnostic tool, you're probably going to go there for your repair items as well, right? So yeah. Hey, like I said, Vendetta Customs, thank you so much for bringing this to us. It's going to give us something to address in the future. And I'm happy that we have something to look forward to as far as learning, getting better. And I hope all of us come one step closer to having our 5-car or our 5 dream car garage in 2024. I hope all of you stay safe, have a fun New Year's Eve into the New Year's Day, spend it with your loved ones or party it up, whatever it is that you do. I look forward to seeing all of you in 2024.